Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to respond to the idea that all jokes have some truth to them. This very cliche, mainstream, boring quote that is used so often to kind of dismantle edgy humor or humor that may cross the line a little bit and say, so then some of these people will say when someone makes an edgy joke or a joke that crosses the line, it's like, oh, every joke contains some truth to it, so you believe some of those things that you said, or you believe that edgy joke that you said to some extent. No, that is so obviously untrue, and it is a complete misidentification of why jokes are funny. Jokes are funny because they're absurd. Jokes are funny because they identify something unreal. So this cliche that all jokes contain some truth to them literally identifies the exact opposite of why jokes are funny. It is the exact opposite. Jokes are funny because they say things that aren't true. So to essentialize a joke or to identify the essential of a joke as being this idea that every joke contains some little truth to it, that's why it's so funny. No, that's not the way to think about jokes. Jokes are funny because they point to the unreal. You laugh at things that are absurd. You laugh at things that are unreal. That's the essential of humor. That's the essential of why certain things are funny. That's why you laugh at jokes. I mean, in my personal instance, that's definitely why I laugh at jokes. My sense of humor is very much based on things that are completely absurd. So I have a very edgy sense of humor. I don't ever really cross that line on my YouTube videos because there's a chance that if I were to make a bunch of jokes about like Jews or blacks or people like that, people would take that out of context and it would affect my future jobs. And this sort of cliche statement has an effect on that too, because most people think that when you say a joke, you're identifying something true. You're trying to say something true, which is not true. The reason why I say a certain joke is because it's so obviously untrue, and everyone obviously understands that. So that's why this joke is funny. Let's take Holocaust jokes, for example. The reason why a Holocaust joke is funny is because you cross this line that everybody knows it's so the Holocaust is so bad. It's so obviously this bad thing. So to make a joke about it, to say something as if it's a debatable issue. It's so unreal. It's so obviously unreal that the Holocaust is this debatable issue, or that the Holocaust was a good thing, that it's funny to talk about. It's funny to make jokes about. Same thing with things like slavery. Same thing with things like racial stereotypes. This is why Rekhas' music is so funny, because it's so obviously unreal. It's so obviously saying things that are unreal. Now, this is one of those sort of cringe defenses of Rekhas' music on the fact that he's actually fighting against racism. Now, he doesn't do that intentionally, but the reason why his jokes are funny is because of that sort of implicit premise that people hold in their mind, that's that sort of idea that people hold that this is unreal. It's not necessarily an implicit premise because people explicitly say that racism is bad. But implicitly the reason why they're laughing, underlying the reason why they're laughing, the reason why they find it funny, is the fact that it's so absurd. It's so crazy that certain people think this. Now, certain people are second-handed when they think about humor, and they think, oh, this goes too far. Other people might get offended at this. I know I'm not offended at this, but other people might get offended at this, this sort of thing. And over time, they also become offended at it because of this sort of second-handedness. This is sort of how I see people develop into getting offended at edgy jokes. They see that other people might be offended, and then over time they're like, this is too far, and then they start getting offended, and it all seems so second-handed. Now, that's not necessarily the case for everybody. It'd be rationalistic to say so, but that is generally what I see, and that's such a stupid way of thinking about jokes, and it ultimately comes from this whole idea that all jokes contain some truth to them, which is, as I've explained, is such an obvious misrepresentation of what jokes actually are, and such an obvious misunderstanding of why jokes are funny. Jokes are funny for the exact opposite reason that cliche phrase points out. And fundamentally, yeah, like I've been saying, these jokes are funny because they aren't true, because they are false. And when people start to say that a joke needs to be has to have some truth value to it, it's it leads to really unfunny jokes, for one. Like, when people aren't actually pushing the boundaries and aren't being edgy with jokes, the jokes aren't that funny. And yeah, I mean, that's the essential. The jokes that they tell when they're trying to have a little bit of truth into them, they're not funny jokes. You need to be absurd to make a joke. It needs to be, to make a really funny joke, it should be absurd, it should be edgy. Now, that's my taste in humor. People might have different tastes in humor, so maybe it's true for certain people that they like jokes that contain some truth value, which, that's fine. I mean, that's possible, but the reason they can't laugh at something that is entirely true. Like, if I read the objectivist epistemology, the most true epistemology in the world, and you started laughing at that, that'd be weird. It'd be funny to think that you're laughing at it, because it's so absurd to think that you just find this book funny. It's serious. It's like a serious book. It's true. If there were an epistemology book that was so obviously bullshit, that was the complete opposite of the objectivist epistemology, I would laugh at it, because they're saying completely absurd claims. They'd be saying completely absurd claims. So yeah. Now, there is a sense in which there's some truth to every joke is true, because you're identifying something that's false. So it's true that this thing is false, but that's not what the intention behind saying that there's some truth value to every joke is, or there's some truth to every joke is trying to say. That's not the intention behind it. The intention is to say that there's something true in this joke. Well, the true thing in this joke is that everything in this joke is false. The reason why the joke is funny is because the essential is that it's false. So it's not a really good way to say it, to make the statement. Then I would like to reframe this and say every single joke contains something false in it. Every single joke contains something false in it. That is what I think should be the essential of jokes. Should be viewed as the essential of that should be the mainstream cliche phrase, rather than there's some truth value to every joke. It's absolutely stupid. But yeah, I think that is all I have to say for today. Thank you all for watching, and I hope to see you all in the next video. Peace.